The Garden of Growth. Lily and Max were packed and ready for their vacation. The sun had just started to rise, casting a golden glow over the morning sky as their parents loaded the car with bags. The car ride was always a bit longer than they liked, but the thought of visiting Uncle Theo's cottage near the village made it all worth it. "I can't wait to see Uncle Theo's garden again," Lily said, her voice full of excitement. She was already imagining all the flowers and vegetables growing in the neat rows, waiting for her to help with them. Max, who was more into video games than plants, looked up from his phone and shrugged. Yeah. But will he let me ride his bike this time?" "Of course," Lily replied, giving her brother a playful nudge. "But first, we get to help in the garden. You'll see, gardening is actually fun." The drive seemed to take forever, but finally, the car rolled to a stop in front of Uncle Theo's cottage. The house was small, cozy, and surrounded by a large garden with rows of vibrant flowers and vegetable patches. The scent of fresh herbs and flowers filled the air. Uncle Theo was already standing on the porch, a wide smile on his face. He was tall, with a bushy beard, and his clothes always had a bit of dirt on them, as if he spent all his time in the garden, something he almost always did. "Welcome, my little gardeners," he called, his eyes twinkling. "I have a lot of work to do, and I'd love some help." "Who's ready?" Lily jumped out of the car before it even came to a full stop. "Me. I am." Max hesitated for a moment, his gaze flicking to the old bicycle propped up against the porch. "I guess I'll help too, but only if I can ride your bike later." "Deal." Uncle Theo laughed. "Let's get to work." Uncle Theo's garden was even more beautiful than Lily remembered. There were beds of tomatoes, carrots, and green beans, with wildflowers and herbs scattered in between. A path meandered through the garden, leading to a large oak tree where the shade was perfect for reading and relaxing. "All right," Uncle Theo began as they stood at the edge of the garden. "Today we're going to plant some new flowers and vegetables." "Lily, do you remember what we planted last time you were here?" Lily nodded eagerly. "We planted sunflowers, right?" "I loved those." Uncle Theo smiled. "That's right. Sunflowers are a favorite of mine. But today we're going to try something different. We'll plant a mix of herbs, some marigolds, and a few new vegetables. Max, you'll like this part. We'll plant cucumbers and carrots." Max's face lit up at the mention of cucumbers. He wasn't much for flowers, but he definitely liked the idea of growing something he could snack on. "Let's start with the marigolds," Uncle Theo suggested. "They're beautiful and help keep bugs away from the vegetables." They all knelt down in front of a patch of freshly tilled soil. Uncle Theo handed them each a small packet of seeds. "These little guys will grow into bright, yellow flowers. We'll space them out here, and over time, they'll attract helpful insects like ladybugs and bees. We don't want any pests eating our vegetables, do we?" Lily smiled. "No way. Let's plant them." Max, although not as excited about marigolds, followed along. Uncle Theo showed them how to dig small holes in the soft soil and gently place the seeds inside. They covered the seeds with dirt and patted the soil down carefully. "This is just like planting the sunflowers last time," Lily said, brushing her hands together to get rid of the dirt. "But this time we're planting flowers that help the garden." "Exactly," Uncle Theo said, grinning. "Everything in a garden has a purpose. Even the flowers." Max, who had been more focused on making his holes the perfect size, paused for a moment. "I didn't realize flowers could do so much." Uncle Theo winked. "And that's only the beginning. A good garden takes a lot of work, but it gives back even more." After planting the marigolds, they moved on to the vegetables. Lily couldn't wait to get her hands in the soil again. She dug small holes and carefully placed cucumber seeds in them. Max was more interested in the carrots, so he took the lead in planting those. Uncle Theo showed them how to space the seeds properly, explaining that each plant needed room to grow. "It's like people," Uncle Theo said as they worked. "Each plant needs enough space to stretch out its roots and grow strong. If they're too crowded, they won't grow as well." As the day wore on, they planted rows of vegetables and flowers, watering them carefully once they were in the ground. Uncle Theo gave them each a small watering can, and they took turns making sure the soil was moist but not too wet. Max was beginning to enjoy the gardening work more than he had expected. The feeling of the earth between his fingers and the satisfaction of planting something that would grow made him proud. He even found himself asking Uncle Theo more questions. Why do we need to water the plants every day? Max asked as he watered his row of carrots. Plants are like people, Max. They need water to live. Without it, they can't grow, Uncle Theo explained. But we also need to be careful not to overwater. Too much water can drown the plants, just like too much food can make us sick. Lily, who had always loved nature, nodded thoughtfully. So if we take care of the plants, they'll grow healthy and strong? Exactly, Uncle Theo said. Gardening is all about patience. You plant the seeds, take care of them, and over time, you watch them grow. It's a lot like life, really. By the time the sun began to set, they had planted everything on their list. The garden was full of promise, with rows of young plants already beginning to take root in the soil. Good job, everyone, Uncle Theo said, his voice warm with pride. Now, let's sit back and relax for a bit. You've earned it. They all settled down on the porch, enjoying the soft breeze and watching the fireflies begin to appear as the sky turned shades of pink and purple. The day had been full of hard work, but it felt good. There was something about working with the earth that made everything else seem less important. The world felt quiet and peaceful, like it was just them and nature. Max, who had been quiet for a while, suddenly spoke up. I'm glad we did this, he said, looking out at the garden. I didn't think I'd like it, but it's kinda cool watching the plants grow. Lily smiled. I knew you'd like it. Gardens are amazing. Uncle Theo nodded. It's a lot of work, but it's rewarding. And just like in life, the best things don't happen overnight. You have to put in the effort and give it time. The next few days passed quickly, with the kids helping Uncle Theo tend to the garden every morning. They learned how to prune the plants, how to deal with pests, and how to recognize when the plants needed more water. Max even began to look forward to their gardening sessions. By the time it was time for them to leave, the garden was starting to look even better. The sunflowers Lily had planted were just beginning to show their green sprouts, and the marigolds were already blooming, their bright orange petals standing out against the green leaves. Before they left, Uncle Theo handed them both a small potted plant. Take these with you, he said. You've worked hard, and I want you to remember the lessons you learned here. Lily held her potted plant carefully. Thank you, Uncle Theo. We'll take good care of them. As they drove away, Max looked out the window at the cottage and the garden, feeling a strange sense of pride. He didn't just feel like he had learned about gardening. He felt like he had learned something deeper, about patience, care, and the joy of watching something grow. Next summer, Max said, let's plant even more stuff. Lily grinned. You got it, Max. Next summer, we'll have the best garden ever.